not new level, new devil when it comes to growth. It's usually the same mistakes that I see people making over and over and over again. And when you're getting ready to hire someone, really sit down and put together a plan to get that new hire on point. It'll save you tons of time, tons of money, tons of frustration.
You're listening to Home Care Hindsight, the podcast where we talk with home care leaders about the big mistakes they've made and the even bigger lessons they've learned along the way. I'm David Knack, head of sales here at Zengage, and I've built a career on the idea that we learn a whole lot more from our mistakes than from our successes, which is great because I've made a lot of mistakes. I've gotten to know some of the leaders in this industry who've built amazing businesses and are super well respected. So I thought it'd be fun, instead of asking them about the great things they've accomplished, to have them tell the story of one of the biggest mistakes that they've made and how that mistake changed their thinking and the way they run their business. All right, welcome back to another episode of Home Care Hindsight, brought to you by Zengage. I'm joined today by Jess Nobles with Home Care Ops. Jess, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I am very excited to have you here. For people who aren't familiar with you, how would you introduce yourself?
I am Jessica Nobles. I am the co-founder of Home Care Ops, where we help home care owners to avoid some of the pitfalls that I have in my 20 years experience as a home care owners. And we help them to scale and grow faster, simpler, and with a strategic path of been there, done that, avoided that, hit that, and succeeded in that area. So that's what we do at Home Care Ops.
You are working with a client. What are some of the because you guys have had a lot of clients you've worked with at this point. What are some of the patterns that you see of okay, we're starting to move in the right direction? What are some of the steps that you see people take that get you most excited?
Yeah, they begin to truly put together a strategic plan. A lot of entrepreneurs in general, they kind of live off a dream and a hope, and they don't really put it down on this is a plan, this is the next steps to get there. So I begin to see them become more strategic in their business decisions, not their emotional decisions. And they begin hiring a team and then beginning to delegate with more confidence, understanding how to support their team and helping their team get the tasks done rather than going in and constantly. I used to be most productive at 6 o'clock in my business because then the team had completely left the office and I could finally get in there and fix all their gaps. But when you're truly being a serious business owner, a serious entrepreneur, you begin to really equip and empower your team so that they can get it done more efficiently. So that's another thing that I love to see. I love to see home care owners coming in and really putting together an actionable plan with attainable targets. I love to see them hiring and equipping their team so their team can help them be successful and they can make their team successful. Those are two of the things that is always so rewarding to begin to see happening within an entrepreneur's success journey.
Yeah, I think the delegation thing's so huge for any business owner. I think you saying I was most successful or I was most productive at 6 p.m. when I could go fix all their mistakes as well. What I hear in that is your team did not feel empowered to be effective from 8 to 5. And they were like, well, I'll do it 80% of the way, but I know Jess is going to get in there and do it anyways. And so what's the point? And so what's the biggest change you see or that you saw from your team, that you see from your clients' teams when they finally break through and are like, okay, you can do it 80% as well as me. I'm going to now get that off of my mental plate and it's yours now.
The biggest thing that I see is that you stop living in reactionary world. You stop living in the world of maintenance. And I see so many, especially in home care, we feel like we're always reacting to something. A caregiver quits, a call out, a new client signs up, whatever it is, there's so much it feels like that is very reactionary that if we can truly begin to lean in and support our team and helping them to be truly productive, helping them to be truly strategic with our productivity, then we can actually begin to grow. We can begin to get in the momentum phase. We're not trying to fix and survive what we've already created, but instead we're using that solid foundation of stability and accountability and communication to grow and scale our businesses to much higher heights with a team that feels empowered and equipped to do it.
I like that word momentum. It makes me think of the similar science word inertia, which is it is hard to push the thing and get it going. But once the thing starts going, it's hard to stop. And so I think like when you're on the front end of this, all this hard work to get the team empowered and up and running, you're like, oh man, is it always going to be this hard? But it's the reality of once you get the train rolling, it takes a long time for it to stop too. Like it will stop, it will slow down. Like you've got to keep putting fuel in the fire, but that's an acceleration thing rather than a we're stopped and let's start kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, thanks for coming. I bring really successful people here, not to ask them about all the stuff they did good, but like about the biggest mistakes that they made in their career and how that changed the way they think about life or about business. So, Jess, what's your big mistake?
Yeah. Well, I want to say I love that you do this because success is not about the things that we did right. It's about the things that we got wrong and we leverage them and we turn them around. So if you truly want to be successful, you cannot fear the failures because the failures is truly what creates the opportunity to succeed. And when it comes to what I got wrong, because I have grown successfully over the past 20 years, I have also had an equal amount of failures. So it's hard to really say this is the number one failure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say a failure that is very entrepreneurial, and then another one is very tactical. So it doesn't matter where you are in your business, or even if you're an operator, the tactical one will apply to you. But I want to take a minute and speak to those entrepreneurs, especially those entrepreneurs that are between, maybe you're navigating that 1 to 4 million. And I know in home care, that's kind of the sweet spot. A lot of agencies feel like they either get stuck or they go into momentum and they truly scale and grow a business built on that 1 to 4 million foundation. And one of the biggest mistakes that I got wrong in my business for a long time as an entrepreneur is I didn't understand what type of entrepreneur I was. And I know that sounds simple, but hear me out for just a second. I was that entrepreneur that got into the cycle of growing my business compared to everybody else's. I began to look and see, what is everybody else doing? What is podcast saying that I'm supposed to be doing? What is the owner down the road? What are they doing? How can I beat them at that game? How can I build something that people will look at me and be like, she's so successful. She's got it all together. And I got into that cycle and I didn't really stop and realize that there are really 3 types of entrepreneurs. We could keep naming them, but there is the lifestyle entrepreneur that builds a business so that we can have a certain type of lifestyle. And then there's an empire builder where you want to build and grow and expand and achieve and grow greater and leverage the business that you currently have to expand and grow bigger. And that's where I found myself at a point in my business. And then there's a serial entrepreneur where you constantly want to invest in multiple opportunities. You're always looking to innovate. You're always looking for additional opportunities. Those are really the 3 types of the serial entrepreneur, the lifestyle entrepreneur, and the empire builder. Those are the 3 types of entrepreneurs that we see within our program a lot. And I will tell you right off the bat, I am a lifestyle entrepreneur. But I lived for 20 years in the cycle of trying to be this empire builder. Everything I made in my business, I poured back into my business to build and grow it bigger. And I found myself at a place of intense burnout. I was very unfulfilled. I was speaking on stages and people were like, oh, she's so great and you're making such a difference. But internally, I was very disconnected from my internal vision. I was unfulfilled in all of the work that I was doing, and I was at a place in burnout. So if right now you are feeling like I am intensely burnt out, it feels like everything I pour into this business just gets poured back into the business so that one day that I can hope to get to where I'm trying to go so that I truly feel successful, I would say give yourself a pause and evaluate. Are you a lifestyle entrepreneur where your business is affording you and providing you that life that you want to live, a freedom and a fulfillment? Are you that empire builder where you want to build, you want to expand, you want to grow, you literally thrive off growing bigger and better and greater? Or are you that serial entrepreneur where you want multiple investments, multiple opportunities? You're looking in different areas of industries. You're looking for additional opportunity. Like whenever you really identify that, you will become a more fulfilled and more focused entrepreneur.
I really like this too. Like there's all of these kind of extrinsic motivations, these like kind of external markers of success that I think it's really easy. And people talk about all the time. Well, the median income for the median revenue for a home care agency is $2 million. So if I'm smaller than that, I must stink. $1 million is this big milestone. I want to get to there. I had somebody on the show recently and he'd crossed over the 10,000 weekly hours threshold. Like that's a big one. And I think what everybody realizes once they get there is the business is the exact same on the other side of that arbitrary milestone as it is on the front end. And you can you need to have stuff in the business to celebrate. You need to have stuff to align the team around you. You need to have goals. You need to have goals that push you and stretch you. But like at the end of the day, you are not going to arrive at a point in time where all of a sudden you feel fulfilled in your business because of some kind of external, like that's emotional work you as an entrepreneur and a leader have to do inside yourself, or else you're going to be constantly chasing this kind of like arbitrary milestone out in the future. And you're going to, not only do you risk burning yourself out, you really risk burning your team out because you are probably going to be the most driven person in your business. And I think it's important for leaders to realize, okay, I'm going to care about this a lot more than my people are. That's why I own the thing. That's why they're in the business. And how do I bring them along in a way that takes into account the kind of investment they have in the business, the kind of vision they have for their future, and not just burn out these people seeking some kind of arbitrary goal that'll finally make me feel good?
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Okay, how do you think about success today if you're no longer chasing some kind of insane milestone in the future?
Yeah. So for success for me is to really sit down and write down what are my priorities and am I hitting them? For a long time, I was entrepreneur first, and I'm a mother. I'm a mother of two. They're 13 and 14 years old, and I'm a mother first. And then I am a wife. I am a wife right up there equally with first. And also I'm in business with my husband. He is my life partner that we happen to do business with. A lot of people say, are you business partners? And we have had that internal business struggle before in the past. And then we realized, no, we are life partners that we get to do business together. So for me, when I'm looking at success, I am gauging, is my business allowing me the time and opportunity to be the mother that I want to be? Is it allowing me the opportunity and the financial fortitude to have the family dynamics, to take the trips, to be home with my family when I want to be present for my husband when we're in the office and out of the office? Those are the things that I gauge. What are my true priorities in life? And we have this unfair advantage of being in the senior care world where we get to see people at the end of their life. Many of them are very, very wealthy, but they would have traded it all to have peace and unity and love among their family. But they sacrificed it so that they could make the money to become wealthy and then on their deathbed to find themselves alone. So it gives me, and I'm sure many of you listening, a perspective of we're not just chasing money, we're not just chasing success, we are chasing a life of impact. An impact that positively impacts our own families and our own internal circles. And then we get the opportunity to impact the people that we employ and the clients and the families that we serve.
I think too, that word like impact, it doesn't matter the surface area that you deploy that on. And in fact, sometimes the smaller the surface area, the greater the impression that you make in the community that you're in. And so I think, you can be $1 million a year agency. Maybe don't try to be smaller than that because then you run into all kinds of like profitability concerns and you can't really grow the team. Like you got to hit a certain level of scale before any of this becomes easy, or else you're just going to be stuck doing all of it yourself forever. That's a whole other thing. But like, you don't have to be a $10 million a year agency to have arrived, to be successful, to have an impact in your community, to make a difference in your clients and your caregivers' lives. Some of the happiest people that I talk to are doing like $2 million, $2.5 million a year in revenue. They have figured out the team. They don't want to throw more people at the problem. And my hypothesis is all the innovations that are coming with AI and AI agents are going to unlock the opportunity for the empire builder to scale like crazy. But I think are also going to unlock the opportunity for the lifestyle entrepreneur to do this 25% easier at 15% higher margin.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. And we actually just come from an Action Leader Summit where one of our coaches, Nicole Haney, actually talked about the identity of ourselves versus the identity of our business. And our value and worth as a business owner is not in the amount of hours that are on our docket each week or the amount of revenue that comes into our bank account each month. That's not where our identity finds value. So I love that you said that. It's such an important statement to not hear, but to truly hear and believe.
I think too, there's almost this kind of pyramid of in America, in the US, or maybe in the West. I don't know. Europe goes on vacation for 3 months out of the year. But like where so much of your identity is wrapped up in what you do. Like that's like the first question we ask each other, right? What do you do? And I think when you're an entrepreneur, you're like at the top of who I am and what I do. And it's so close together that it's really, really easy. That was a visual for the people watching on YouTube. Hi, Mom. But like, like you're just so close in your identity as a person and what you do because the business is the baby. And so I think it's like, I want to say that is a really poignant, simple thing to say. But it is a really, really hard thing to believe. And if you're listening to this and you're like, how do I separate who I am as a person from this business I'm pouring 80 hours a week into? It's hard, but it's also like really important to do.
Yeah. And I think that leads me, I promised a tactical mistake.
Yeah.
That I see people making over and over and over again. And it is the one mistake that I make over and over and over again. So I'm going to throw it out there. And I am not speaking to you as the person who's mastered it all. I'm speaking to you to the person who's constantly in the stages of learning in this element. And that is hiring additional staff. So many people, like for me, the thing that I have spent the most money on non-strategically, and if you want to just get plain with it, the things I have wasted the most money in, I've learned from them, so I chalk it up as a learning expense. But I hired people before I was ready. Like my first year of business, and a lot of people know my story in home care. When I started my home care business, I grew from 0 to $1 million in 9 months. And that you can't scale alone. But everybody was like, you need a marketer, you need a marketer, you need a marketer. So I hired a marketer and I hired someone with experience. But very, very quickly, I realized she was not a good culture fit. She was not bringing in any ROI within the first 90 days. Not one lead or solid relationship was built. So we're talking about out of my budget, and especially being in the $1 million stage of business, when you're talking about a $60,000 base salary, that just all of that I had paid her in those short months together was just poured into a black hole. There was no ROI. And so at first I thought, okay, well, lesson learned. And then the next time I went to hire a position, I hired him, and she would like, it was a good working position, but it took us about 90 days to really get in a rhythm where I wasn't saying, man, I thought this was supposed to make my life easier. And I mean, who hasn't hired someone and then in the first 6 weeks said, oh my God, why did I even hire them? They were supposed to make my life so much easier and it's so much harder. And throughout all the stages of my business, $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, from entry level to executive level, the thing that I have to keep myself in check constantly, and the thing that I see most people making a mistake, is they are not ready or prepared to bring on an additional hire or a new hire. And that leads to, one, sometimes cash flow will get a little tight because we'll hire someone thinking they'll come in and they'll pay for themselves, and they don't in the first 90 days, and things get tight. We hire someone and they do not feel confident in their role, especially in those first 90 days. So it ends up feeling like we're doing our work, their work, and trying to train them how to do their work. So it's an extra burden. And we also bring people on that we're not ready and prepared to hire. And we risk losing what could have been a very good employee, a very good leader within our company, but because we didn't have all of our crap together, they then begin to question of, are they in the right spot? So I want to share some of the things that I have learned that will help me to be better prepared to hire someone. And if I ever jump the gun and pull the trigger without doing these things, I have always paid for it, whether it be in time, money, effort, frustration, or losing a good hire. And the first thing is especially if you're in the stages of your business where every dime needs to be accounted for and it really needs to bring you an ROI, before you hire a position, take 6 weeks and put back what you would have paid them. Put it back into a cushion fund because it's going to take them 6 weeks to get into the position. And if their position is something, especially like a marketing position where you're counting on an ROI, it's going to take 6 weeks a lot of times before they actually will start bringing any type of ROI in.
Yep.
So if you know that you're going to hire, then say, okay, I have a 6 weeks where I'm putting back those funds. And if you're at a certain level of your business and you already have the investable capital, maybe that's not the thing for you. But the thing that for everyone is to create a plan to get that new hire. We call it on point. And that is where we sit down and we say, okay, how are we going to get this new hire on point within the first 14 days and then within the first 6 weeks of hire? And we sit down and say, point, P.O.I.N.T. What's the plan? What's the outcome? What's the intent? What's the next steps? And what is the team, task, and timeline involved for getting this hire on point? Now, that seems simple, and it seems like, oh, well, of course I already know that I'm ready to hire them, but sit down and start writing that down. What is the plan for hiring them, bringing them on, and what does their first 14 days look like? And then if you're so certain about that, write down what the first 6 weeks looks like. What is the outcome that you want to see from that position? What is the outcome that that position is expected to provide? Are we giving them the support, the resources, the time, the training to achieve that outcome? What is the intent of that position? Do they have clear expectations of this is the role that you're going to have? This is what you own within that role. This is how you report within that role. This is how your position is going to make our life easier, our client's life easier, and the lives of the other people that you're working with. This is the intent of that role. And then the next steps. Next steps. From the day that they start in that office, what does next steps look like? What are they actually working on? What are they being trained on? Who will be doing the training? What are their win moments? When will they feel like, oh, I've accomplished something this week. I feel more confident in this area this week. And then what is the task, team, and timeline? What are the tasks they'll be doing? What is the timeline of which they will need to do it in? What does success look like in that timeline? What are the other team members they're working with? It is astounding how many home care owners at every level. And within home care ops, we work with, most of our clients are the million, and in our fractional board of directors, we work with clients who have surpassed the $30 million in revenue. And at every new level, same devil. Like it's not new level, new devil when it comes to growth. It's usually the same mistakes that I see people making over and over and over again. And when you're getting ready to hire someone, I see those same mistakes over and over. Really sit down and put together a plan to get that new hire on point. It'll save you tons of time, tons of money, tons of frustration. The people will come in, they will feel like that you're prepared for them, that you are ready for them. They can slide into their role with more clarity. There's already a plan in place for what the first 2 weeks and the first 6 weeks look like. And they will be a much more steady, stable, reliable new hire that turns into a very trusted, dependable employee, all because we've done the work on the front end. And that has helped me tremendously. And I will tell you, I still bypass that sometimes because I see somebody and I'm like, I want them on my team.
Yeah.
Or I'm like, I want to launch this new product. So I need this person right away. And so I will hire them. And we're talking about months later, we will still be on the struggle train, all because I didn't do that initial preparation work for myself and for that position.
All of that makes me think of, I used to live in Tennessee. I don't anymore. You live in Tennessee. And every time somebody who didn't really know the geography of Tennessee it's not a test, they'd find out I was in Tennessee. They go, oh, it's so beautiful there. You've got the mountains and, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah. That's on Jess's side of the state over in Chattanooga and Knoxville and Gatlinburg and whatnot. I live on the side of the state that is mud. And we had to create, there's a farming method. You didn't know you're getting an agricultural tutoring lesson here, but there's a farming method that was developed about 40 minutes north of where I lived called the Mylan no-till method. And you will hear the word Mylan and you'll go, that sounds like it should be said Milan, and you're right, but it's not. We also had Madonna over there. Anyways, the reason for that is when you would till the farmland, you would displace the topsoil to the extent that it would just slide off into the river. So we had to make this whole new farming method where you would just have cover crop that was really short that would create this really fertile soil for the seed to do its thing. And that's very unique to West Tennessee. Again, you didn't know you were getting all that. But it makes me think you've got to prepare the soil of the business if you want this crop or this new group of team members, this new team member that you're putting in place to be successful. In all of that, I'm curious. I think there's 3 pitfalls that I can think of. You can probably think of a couple of others, I'm sure. But one is, did I make a mistake in hiring this person? And I think that's something that is a risk. And if you don't do the right stuff, you're going to feel that way. There's the risk of, am I, new employee, am I in the wrong place? And then I think there's the other risk of, we did not build appropriate guardrails and accountability in, and we are taking a look a little bit too late, and we didn't have enough check-ins previous, and we've gotten way off track, and we've got to figure out how to unwind this. And so in that kind of POINT acronym, kind of speak to what are the kinds of things that people can do to prevent that, oops, I hired the wrong person, oops, I'm at the wrong place, and oops, we didn't check in for 90 days, and it turns out we're actually totally missing our targets.
Yeah. So there are 3 things, and these are my guiding rods, any time that I am slipping in anything in my business, I will go and evaluate, am I living and operating in these 3 things? And number 1 is transparent communication. Be transparent with your communication. Number 2 is clear and defined expectations. Be very transparent with your clear and defined expectations. And number 3, always offer supportive accountability and accept supportive accountability. So even with my staff, and something that I started back in the early stages of my home care business, I was really big on even telling my staff there are 3 things that I live by: transparent communication, clear and defined expectations, and supportive accountability. In your role here at this company, you will never wonder if you're doing a good job or if you are not doing a good job. I am going to come to you and I'm going to say, hey, I love how you're doing this, but this is an area of opportunity I would like for us to work on together. I will be checking in over the course of the next week to ensure that you have the support to perform in expectations. And my clear expectations are, and I would outline, this is my clear expectations. And then I would say, do you have any internal expectations of me that we need to make external? And it's amazing that whenever you truly build a culture of transparency, of clear expectations, and supportive accountability is not only expected, but it is also returned. I have a team of people that are counting on me, but I also want them to keep me accountable as well. Especially, I'm a big visionary. I love big ideas. I'm that person that I hear an idea or I have an idea in the middle of the night. I want to go directly to my team and be like, team, we're doing this new thing.
Yeah.
And I want my team to in turn be able to have that same level of supportive accountability and that transparency of communication of, great idea, but right now, do we really feel like this is the time? This is the expectations that we are already operating in. But those are the 3 things that, and I will even tell my team, especially my new hires, over the course of the next 6 weeks, we're not only learning business, we're learning personalities. And there are going to be things that you're absolutely going to love. I would love for you to tell me. There's going to be things that you absolutely question to the internal core of who you are. I want you to come to me and let's talk about those things. And Clint says all the time, whenever we talk about challenging conversations, because in leadership, you have a lot of challenging conversations.
Sure.
And he'll say there's no such thing as a challenging conversation. There's a conversation that was waited too long to be had. where a lot of times when things aren't really jiving the way, okay, I don't know what she's doing here. I don't know what he's doing. Like, I don't know if this is the right fit. It's better to say, hey, let's have a quick side note conversation. These are things that I'm beginning to see a little discomfort, or maybe it's a little bit outside of your element. Let's talk about that a minute. That seems like a whole lot easier conversation than when you've let something ride that has not been riding very well with you for weeks or days, and then you try to pull them to the side. Then it becomes a difficult conversation that doesn't always end in a positive way.
Yeah.
Especially if trust has gradually been being chipped away at, rather than if we just have transparent communication and clear and defined expectations backed up with supportive accountability, we can not only save so much within our business, but we can truly build a thriving team that is so much more productive and confident within what they do on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think the time component of this is what's really important, right? Because we can be 2 degrees off on our direction, our heading. And if we let that ride for a day, we're probably not too far apart. But if it's 3 months before we kind of come back together and go, hey, we were like kind of far apart, like we can't even see each other anymore. And so I think that's really well said. It's like the quicker we can, we don't have like a quick trigger or a quick temper or anything, but like the quicker we can address these kinds of things and recognize them and prep our teams to recognize those things and bring them up, the closer we are together when we have to come to solve the problem.
Yes.
I want to ask you about something, which is supportive accountability, but you were also the person previously in your business who at 6 p.m. would go in and micromanage all the tasks that didn't get done properly. And so how do you think about the balance between supportive accountability and having conversations with people about the specifics of their performance without kind of dipping back into, okay, it's 6 p.m., I've got to go fix all their stuff? And I think there's a perception of being a micromanager, and then there's the reality of doing the actual micromanaging. Both matter. Sometimes people are going to feel micromanaged. I can't control the way that they feel, but I can control the way that I'm acting. And so how do you think about that, given that it sounds like maybe your supportive accountability has dipped sometimes into a little too close to the sun?
Yeah, no, that's a great question and great point. And I love that you asked that, because the one thing that I did have to realize that still doesn't always sit well with me today is that we hear the 80-20 rule. If your employees are doing 80% of what you're wanting them like to do, then they are doing a very good job. Yeah. But a lot of times we latch onto the 20% that they're not doing right. And I was one of those people, like, especially in the earlier stages of my business, I love doing home assessments, not because I love the act of the home assessment, but I love the outcome. I rarely ever, I can count on one hand how many clients I did not get that I wanted in my entire 20-year career, because I was phenomenal at closing the deal in the assessments and building a lot of trust and retention and reviews. All of that happened within my assessments. My employees were not getting that same level of outcome.
Sure.
And it was so hard for me to let it go. Finally, we sat down and realized, but they're getting like 86% of what you did. Like, leave it. Yeah. And finally I was like, okay, I step away. And we grew so much more. Now, was our conversion ratio the same as mine? No, but I no longer was the bottleneck. So we actually grew a whole lot more percentage because I wasn't the bottleneck.
I'm sorry. I laugh so hard because anybody listening to this is like, my God, if I could find a marketer who could close 70% of the home assessments, I'd be thrilled. And I love the emotional journey you had to go on to be able to settle for just a measly 86%. That rocks.
I will tell you, the more we scale, the lower that goes, right?
Sure.
With anything.
Yeah, totally.
Like, and that's another thing to expect. The more that you're scaling your business, your expectations has to change when it comes to conversions, numbers, and all that good jazz. But I think the thing that kind of helped me to begin shifting my mindset of either and there's a difference between micromanaging and pushing people out so that you can do it yourself. Like, especially in the earlier stages of our business, when we're still building the foundation for scale, our team does need a sense of micromanagement to a degree when we are still creating the systems and processes, because they have nothing to be the guiding light or the path to success if there's not already installed systems and processes. So for those of you that feel like you have to micromanage your team or things doesn't get done the way you want them to, ensure that when you're doing the thing that you're putting a system and process in place for that thing. So you will always have to micromanage or settle for a whole lot less if you don't first install a system and process for your teams to follow. I know that I am the co-founder of Home Care Ops, and people call me the leading operations expert in the industry. I still internally chuckle to the point that I want to snort to think that anybody would consider me an operations expert, because like my natural internal state is not one of systems and processes. I literally had to sit down along with my team, sit down and keep me accountable for, we need to put a system in place for this. We need to put a process in place in this. And I don't mean the dusty SOP binders that sit, on our shelves that we never open. I literally mean, one of our coaches, Nicole, calls it the Bible from which we make decisions and we do our actions inside of our business on a daily basis. So there is going to be a stage in your business where it feels like you're micromanaging because you're still having to put those systems and processes in place. We teach something called a team managed agency, where your team actually manages the agency. So you as the owner can step out of daily operations and focus more on the scale of your business, on the innovation of your business. And for some owners, they choose to almost kind of see it as, I want a team managed agency so I don't have to work in my business at all. And it can be more of the maintenance growth stage. But how you have a team managed agency is you set clear and defined expectations for your team. Everybody on your team, especially your administrative team, needs to be an owner of something. And like there's 5 areas of daily operations in your business: communication, service delivery, care coordination, team development, and business development. So those are all areas of operations that people on your team can actually have ownership. They need to have ownership of the decisions and the daily actions and the outcomes. At first, we micromanage those things because we have to set the bar of expectations. We have to establish the system for success. We have to establish the process of doing. But once we establish that, and the team can be a part of that. If I, like my scheduler, I literally brought her in and I was like, tell me every step of what you do when scheduling and what is your decision framework whenever someone calls out. Okay, let's just write that down. And I didn't have ChatGPT back in the day. Now we literally can say, I'm about to brain dump on you, ChatGPT. This is exactly what I do in this process. Now put it in a simple step-by-step process that we can repeat on a daily basis. We didn't have that back in the day, but now even tools like AI is helping to truly add that structure of stability and accountability, because it can quickly write the systems and processes that our team is doing. It doesn't write it for us. It just gives us a brain dump opportunity that it can then put it into something really pretty. And it looks like we have spent months writing this SOP.
Yes. Yeah, that's an opportunity too to use the I can talk out loud to this thing functionality of ChatGPT, and you can do that in the chat interface where you just touch the button that's talk to it, and it'll listen and transcribe, and then you can read the response. Or if you're weird like me, you can go on a walk and you can put headphones in, and you can have the thing actually talk to you, and you have to I always tell ChatGPT not to be super effusive and annoying, because it's defaults to the longest possible answers. And so you got to kind of tell it how to do its thing. But if you do that, you can get really good outcomes, especially in terms of organizing and summarizing and making, adding clarity to your thoughts.
Yeah.
We got to stop being the hit by a bus problems in our own businesses of, I have all this institutional knowledge that only lives inside my brain. And this is me talking to me here, because it's got to get out of our brains. And I don't know what the best, whatever the best way to get it out of your brain is the best way to get it out of your brain, because it can get, thanks to the innovations with AI, you can reformat that into whatever version you want it to be on the back end.
Yeah. Yeah, like if there are two things that I would say that it is important for a home care owner to do, it's get the knowledge inside of your brain out, and then getting your team actually reporting what they're doing in. So like that there needs to be that reporting and reviewing, even within our team right now, especially since we have a team of executives. A lot of times we're like, they're executives, so sometimes we bypass the tracking and reporting, and that can't happen. And there's no stage of your business where you can ever stop tracking, reporting, reviewing, analyzing the data that comes in, the finances that come in, the numbers that come in. And also as an owner, we've got to get everything that, because we're continuing to grow in knowledge and experience as a home care owner. It doesn't need to only be in our head. It needs to be infused throughout the influence of our team.
That's good. Okay, well, we talked about a lot of mistakes, but I like to end every episode on a high note. So tell me about something that's happened lately in your business that you're proud of.
Yeah. So actually, in my business over the past 6 months, I took somewhat of a sabbatical. It is the first time in many, many, many years that I was able to completely step away. And I am super proud that we have an executive team of decision makers who can not only keep the business maintaining, but continue to grow the business. And I see innovation happen within the business. And the most rewarding thing, one, is to see people that you've kind of brought into the fold of your internal decision-making framework and see great come out of it.
Yeah.
But to see so much more impact than I ever could have done, because we have more people, touching more people, impacting more people, consulting with more people, changing the lives of more people. And in my position at Home Care Ops, that means that there's a whole lot more home care owners and their teams being equipped to truly succeed. But what is even more rewarding on top of that is that means there are so many more clients and their families, and there's so many more of those entry-level employees that is having such a better experience overall because people's businesses are doing well. And that is what has been super rewarding for me over the past 6 months, to be able to step away and enjoy the freedom that my business has allowed me to, but to see the impact continue to grow over the course of that time. So that's super rewarding.
That's great. You're pulling together the lifestyle entrepreneur part of yourself with the empire building part of yourself that you kind of have tried to get away from, but it seems like not 100% successful in doing so.
Well, I think there is a balance in that. And I think we can, as a lifestyle entrepreneur, because that is my natural state, I have realized I can still get all of the impact of an empire builder as long as I put people in place and we have that transparency of expectations, of communication. We have that support of accountability. We can achieve the things that I probably wouldn't even been able to achieve just as an empire builder if I didn't have that grounding force of, I want to ensure that this doesn't affect the quality of my mommy wife life as well.
Yeah. Look, home care will kill you if you let it. So I think, yeah.
It will. I have been there and revived myself and come back from that. And I couldn't have done that without an incredible team, a lot of systems and processes, and a lot of clarity on what I'm actually doing it for.
All right. Before we get out of here, what do you want to plug?
Yeah. So I want everybody to know that they are not alone. There are so many resources out there. One, just like this incredible podcast, but we also have a community that has over 10,000 home care owners in it. If you're active on Facebook, make sure that you're a part of the home care owners community. We can keep this conversation going there. We can create new conversations there. There is not a dumb question that you can ask. There may be, but you'll get some dumb answers as well. But we're just in there always inspiring, encouraging each other. We're answering questions from people who have done it for years and years and years, for people who are just getting into this industry and they're wanting to avoid some of the pitfalls that us old timers in the industry who've been in it 20 plus years have done. So go to Home Care Owners Community. It's on Facebook. Get plugged in there. If you're not active on Facebook, then hit me up on LinkedIn. Jessica Nobles on LinkedIn. Let's stay connected there. We have a lot of masterclasses. We have events throughout the year. All of them are for the purpose of equipping you to succeed and scale sustainably.
Awesome. Well, Jess, thanks so much for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it.
I'm behalf of the team here at Zengage, thanks for listening to the show. We'll be back next week with another episode, so be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts on Spotify or Apple or YouTube. Leave us a rating while you're there. It helps other people find the show. If you have comments on the show, drop me a line, david@zengage.com. Would love to hear from you, chat with you there.